Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vijana Bhala Giridhara Dhari Jaya Vijana Bhala Giridhara Dhari Vishwanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Vishwanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Ramana Paramahansa Parivraja Gacharya Ashtutara Shukla Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtutara Shukla Srimad His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Itai Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Shishiguru and Shigurama. So how many here are fathers? Let me see the hand. So we like to say to all the fathers, Haribo! Happy Father's Day. Today, we're discussing and celebrating about Supreme Father. And this is a very, very basic, but also simple principle in Krishna consciousness. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is possibly the most, or arguably the most relevant principle to actually take to be able to proceed in Krishna consciousness. In fact, in the process that is given in the Vedas, to be able to advance spiritually, this principle has to be accepted and understood in truth. Completely understood. The essence of all type of path that is elevating in consciousness is based on this principle that Krishna puts it very simply in the Bhagavad Gita. We have to understand Him, His nature, the divinity of His nature in truth. This is called transcendental knowledge. We have to understand Krishna's position, and we have to understand our position, and we have to understand our relationship with Krishna. In a nutshell, this is what is called transcendental knowledge, Divya Gyan. Without transcendental knowledge, then anything that we do is doomed for a failure. That's what the Bhagavad Gita said. Krishna says that in the 9th chapter. That having no faith in this knowledge leads to failure in all the different attempts that we have, both materially and spiritually. In the language of the Sri Ishopanishad, is also very strongly established that there is no other alternative for happiness, prosperity, and liberation in this world without understanding this principle. In the Ishopanishad, this principle of this knowledge of Krishna is called the Ishabhashya principle, or Ishabhashya Jnana. The knowledge of the understanding of what is the source of everything. So, this understanding of Krishna as the father of all, the origin, is essential. And so we're going to talk a little bit about it and investigate, especially taking advantage of celebrating Father's Day. So, but let's understand from the perspective of the Dharma Shastras, of the Vedic books of knowledge, what are the qualities and what are the characteristics of a father. So for all of you that are fathers, this is according to the Dharma Shastras, what we expected to be. Of course, we're living in an age that is not the institution, the Vedic culture, it has been damaged by this age of Kali. When we hear about the Vedic culture that was previously established in different ages, then we see how this ideal perfect society is described. And each of the elements, each of the people that are part of this society, this social structure, they have an ideal duties. So the ideal of a father is also given in the Dharma Shastras. And Srila Vyasadeva described these duties as follows. The first and foremost one of the duties of a father is given very succinctly in the Srimad Bhagavatam by the teachings of King Rishabdev. This appears in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And King Rishabdev is instructing his sons about how to fulfill the duties, what are the roles that are there in society, preparing them to be ideal men in society. So, of course, the roles of a father are given there, and the foremost one that he gives is this very famous verse that says, one who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. So this instruction is not only for fathers, but also for mothers, for teachers, for spiritual masters, for politicians, for anyone who takes a responsible position in society. This is the foremost instruction or expectation or duty. We have to be able to deliver, to facilitate the elevation of consciousness of all those who are our dependents, and also teach the path of liberation from this material world. Very big thing to actually fulfill, because how many of us feel capable of providing this for our dependents? Let me see hands. Yes. We feel that, okay, so I guess I don't know where to put myself because, I don't feel qualified for this. So I cannot be a mother, I cannot be a father, I cannot be a teacher, I cannot be a husband or wife. So what can I do? Of course, again, because we are living in times, these modern times does not support this society that is based on elevation of consciousness, that it supports, all these ideal activities of society. We grow in a society that is basically based on the principles of avidya. Avidya means ignorance of the self and ignorance of what is supposed to be done. In the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the description of avidya is given as when we consider that which is reality as unreal, that which is pure as impure, that what is the self as not the self. So everything is topsy-turvy in this Kali Yuga time that is ruled by avidya. We don't think that the self is the soul, we think the self is the body. We think that the most that the activities of devotional service are lesser, and the activities of material elevation and economic development that are more important. So, in all sense, the right things, avidya basically makes it upside down. So, what to do in a society that doesn't support a culture of elevation, a culture, an ideal culture, a Vedic culture? We have to cultivate knowledge. We have to see these ideals and try to implement it. Yes, and maybe right now not free from this bodily conception of life, this avidya, this ignorance. However, because my life is being directed by vidya, by transcendental knowledge, then I can actually also lead all those who are dependent on me in the same path of vidya. So, as a responsible father, as a responsible mother, as a responsible teacher, I should facilitate this path to all those who are dependent on me. So first and most, we have to actually embrace the culture of vidya, the culture of knowledge. So a father, first thing is and must be a spiritual leader. So the father should facilitate, meaning that in order to facilitate, you have to be a practitioner. You have to be someone who embraces and understands the importance of pursuing a life of elevation. In the Dharma Shastras, it tells us that there's 4 goals of life: Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Right now, in this Kali Yuga, we basically led to only focus on Artha and Kama. Dharma becomes just something that facilitates our Artha and our Kama. So we come to do pious activities and religiosity for the purpose of elevating ourselves materially. But in the ideal society, in a society that is led by vidya, then these things work together for the purpose of leading us to the proper goal of life. The goal of life is self-realization. Is to understand that I'm a spirit soul, an eternal spirit soul, and I have an eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of God. So we have to embrace that. So here's other qualities of a father that is given in the Dharma Shastras. So a father is a provider, meaning that the ideal father is that who works very hard to facilitate everything that is needed by the family members, by all those who are there. So the maintainer, the provider, makes sure that our children have everything they need physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It all gets provided, facilitated. The father is a protector. It's like a shield for the family. Natural. These are things that are natural there. Especially, Prabhupada explains that Indian culture, although the ideal Vedic culture is also is not anymore present in India because of that culture that was at the heart of the Vedic culture in India. There's still traces. So Prabhupada said, just like a living elephant is very, very powerful and very valuable, a dead elephant also is valuable. They actually can, take the ivory of the tusk and that all that, there's a lot of value to other cultures in the world. So in general, the family unit in Indian culture is very strong. And the position of a hard-working man is natural. And the position of the mothers of actually creating the atmosphere of nourishment in the home for the children and for all the members is natural too. So, and children that grow to be obedient to the family values and to the family traditions. These are natural too. Of course, as we get more and more influenced by Western culture, we see these values start to dissipate a little bit. And especially that's a big thing that throughout a good part of my life in Krishna consciousness, I work with children in education. And I have to witness that sort of anxiety that many families have to face in terms of their children because of growing in this atmosphere in which family values are not as strong as you have in Indian culture. They embrace much more the values that in Western culture is about the individual. So individual rights are more important than family values. As long as if my family values start to interfere with my individual rights, then it doesn't work. Number one is me. That's Western culture. And we see as we get more, especially, I have many friends and I see work with the families that are from Indian descent, they have to grapple with this sort of conundrum, that you have to balance. Okay, you're embracing a life of economic development in the West to actually have a better facility for your families and children too, that were given to all of you, in the tradition. And then how to communicate that to the children. And as the generations goes, we see those values are becoming more and more diminished. Is that a fair analysis? It is like that, and at least in the discussion, at least many people feels like that. We see the new generations of Indian, they're becoming more and more less recognized with the traditional values and more recognized with the Western values. So this, what is right here, is very, very natural in Indian culture. A father has to be a teacher. A father has to be a friend to your child and learn to become a friend. A father is an example. So you don't teach. You teach by example. Achar and prachar. Prachar is what you say, but what you say have to match your actions. The ideal society is a society of character, not a society of duplicity and hypocrisy. I didn't grow up in a cultured society. But of course, my parents they're very, very good people. And I love them dearly. Today I spoke with my father. My mother already passed away, but they, very nice people. And they try to do the best to provide for myself. I grew up very comfortably. However, okay, so this is just, it was on purpose to remind you that you have to cancel your things. So, let me do that before this guy calls again. Do not disturb. So, when I was in school, I was a very, how you say, vivacious, very curious type of children, very, very, very active. And in my high school, some of my friends, the cool ones, they were smoking, 12 years old. So, yeah, you see it in the movies, you see your family members, you see it in society, you see your adults, they're smoking, they're drinking. This is normal. I grew up in Latin culture in South America. Same, basically, following all the American, Western culture. You see it all around. So then I tell my parents, because my parents were very liberal, and they actually taught me from the very beginning that I have to speak for myself, and I have to negotiate things, and I have to apply logic, and I have to, all these things. So they taught me like that I won't be necessarily, that I don't take things for granted, but if I can actually argue about things. So, like that, I approached both my father and my mother, and I say, I want to smoke. 12 years old. Me. It's like right now, it's horrifying, but this was normal. So my father goes and say, absolutely no. Of course. How, And then my mother say, absolutely no. And then of course, the education that they give to the child is trying to, fire back on them. So I say, why not? My grandfather smokes. I see you smoking sometimes. So what's the problem? Well, you're too young. My friends are smoking. Well, you're not going to smoke. You follow what I say. And then guess what I did? I smoked. So I didn't actually I say, you see this discrepancy on do as I say, but no as I do. And no child is buying that. No sort of active, intelligent child is buying that. So we have to teach by example. Otherwise, our children are not going to take it serious. Now, I work with Indian children of Indian families, and difference between the children, most of them in general, they're very obedient by nature, but they're not necessarily buying the whole thing, because you're going to see, and I'm sure some of you are starting to experience that as they start to become more aware of the individuality they start to question things that are discrepancies in our behavior. And then when they see, well, so, you saying about piety, about worshiping and that, but you're doing all these other things, so then, what's the big deal? I can do all these things too, If we consider spirituality, or we consider the path of Vidya as something secondary to the path of material development, then our children are going to see also spirituality as something secondary, accordingly. So we have to show example. It's important, it's such a responsible thing, and it's common sense. And at times we have to deal, I try my best, but I'm not perfect. And that's true too. We have to be realistic, We also condition souls. But because of this responsibility of having a dependent, then it makes us, it propels us, it compels us to become better. We have no alternative but to actually grow for our children. We do it materially. How many of you sacrifice so much to be able to provide everything that is required materially for your children? I know people that actually work 2 or 3 jobs to be able to pay, a very, very good college for the children. So we sacrifice, we know that. So similarly, for the purpose of elevation, for the purpose of actually leading our dependence, there's no alternative. Just like there is no alternative for you to be, a pauper. We have to properly provide. Our fathers are leaders. Shows the way. Shows the character. That in despite, if things are going down, Father remains strong, positive, keeping the path. And the Father is the one that ensures discipline. Discipline is important because discipline strengthens the mind and the character of the children. Prabhupada explains that the discipline that a loving father and teacher is like the expert, those who make, these metal pots or copper pots like that. So they put the hand inside and then with a hammer, they shape beautifully and perfectly these vessels. So you give support and you hammer. The hammer is discipline. But with the hammer, you're actually shaping the character of the child. A problem that we have in Western societies, and this is one of the things that I tell my parents, that one of the difficulties that they have is that they were so liberal that they didn't give me so much discipline. And that created difficulties, obstacles for me in my life. So discipline is important. But again, for discipline, you have to have that supporting hand. Because if we just hammer in these kids, then you're going to make them completely out of shape. You're actually going to have a dysfunctional, traumatized kid. It is only discipline. Bang, 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 bang. Stop doing that stuff. Then they're going to rebel. You have to be love and discipline. So, these are things that we find completely. And they're only possible when we embrace and understand our relationship with Krishna, the Supreme Father. To be able to advance and to become better in these ideals, we have to understand that same relationship that we have with Krishna. All of these things that are here are qualities that come from Krishna. So Krishna is the Supreme Father. And as a Supreme Father, He is our Supreme Provider, He's our Supreme Protector, He's our Supreme Teacher, He's our Supreme Friend, He's our Supreme Example, He's our Supreme Leader, and He's the one who teaches how to act, who gives us the do's and don'ts. So, the path of Krishna consciousness is that we all embrace that understanding. So Krishna tells us that it should be understood in the Bhagavad Gita that all species of life, also Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving Father. So Krishna declares himself, he is the original Father of all living entities. All living entities. The mother is material nature. Krishna is the Father, the seed-giving Father. So Krishna is our Supreme Father. Each one of us. Father, mother, children, we all children of Krishna. So from the perspective of Krishna, we all equal. We all the children. Prabhupada explains, or he quotes, the Katha Upanishad with this famous verse that explains the difference between the Supreme Father and us regular fathers. He says, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunanjo Vidadati Kamam. Of all eternals, Nityo, there is one who is the chief eternal. So there is Nityo and there is Nityanam. Nityanam means many eternals. Nityo means the one supreme eternal. Chetananam. Chetananam means of all the conscious beings, there is this supreme conscious being. So there is one supreme. And what is the difference between this supreme and the many others? Is that this supreme maintains the others and fulfills the desires according to their merits. Is the one who maintains everyone. Is the one who provides for everyone. So the first thing, such a basic thing, we understand Krishna's position. He is the supreme, and I am his children, subordinate, his dependent. The basis of this understanding is what is called saranagati, or the means of surrendering to Krishna, to understand. It is explained in the Vedas that there is 6 limbs of this saranagati, or surrender to Krishna, that is necessary. And that is all rooted on this relationship that we have with He is my maintainer. He is my protector, and I'm fully his dependent. Just like a child is fully dependent on the father and the mother. So similarly, we're fully dependent on Krishna for everything. When we understand that, then we're considered to be dhira, or someone who have proper discrimination and understanding of what is spirit that Krishna has as the Father, the provider. Eko bahunan vidadatikam. The meaning is that one living force is supplying all the demands of all other living entities. Just like in a family, the father is supplying the necessities of the wife, the children, the servant, and a small family. Similarly, you expand it. The government or the state or the king is supplying the necessities of all the citizens. But everything is incomplete. Everything is incomplete. You can't supply your family. You can't supply your society. You can't supply your country. But you cannot supply everyone. But there are millions and trillions of living entities. Who is supplying food? Who is supplying hundreds of thousands of ants within the hall in your room? Who is supplying food? When you go to the Green Lake, in this case we can call it the Great Lakes. When you go to the Green Lake, there are thousands of ducks. Who's taking care of them? But they're living. There are millions of sparrows, birds, bees, elephants. At one time, he eats hundreds of pounds, the elephant. Who's supplying food? Not only here, but there are many millions and trillions of planets and universes everywhere. That is God. Nityo nityanam eko bahunam vidadatikam. Everyone depends on him, and he is supplying all the necessities. All the necessities, everything complete. Just like this planet, everything is complete. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, Krishna is our provider, our maintainer, our friend, supreme friend, our protector. And he reciprocates with us according to how we approach him. Krishna's protection and Krishna's kindness, it is explained that is equal to everyone. He has no discrimination. It's just like the rain cloud who pours water over the field. And he doesn't discriminate if this field is arid. Is that how you say? Arid? That it doesn't, a stony rock field, or this field is very, very ready for growing, like fertile. So it's not the problem of Krishna's mercy that is raining like that. The problem is how fertile we are to receive Krishna's mercy. Because Krishna's mercy is pouring down in each one of us. Only when we recognize, when we have this knowledge, we can actually make ourselves fertile for that. In society, right now, there are very important issues that are the forefront of social consciousness right now. And this is all over the world. And these are things that actually are very important to society. Family, love, happiness, equality, just to name some, happiness, justice, preserving our environment, All the things are very important right now, and people are conscious about why, because we see how much inequality is there. So people are fighting. Ideally, we want this equality, even in the constitution of this country, in the original constitution of this country. It is saying that all men are made equal by God. So equality is important. The rights, we have equal rights. Everybody has a right for happiness and the pursuit of happiness and prosperity. That's in the constitution of this country. How many of you, but when we become citizens, you have to basically memorize all this stuff. They test you, you know. So for all of you who are looking for that, that's, you know, we have to do that. So it's there. It's enshrined in common sense. But it doesn't matter how this society tries to advance or solve these problems of inequality, these problems of relationship, these problems of justice, social justice, the problem of we're destroying our planet, the problems of distress and unhappiness and all these different things that are happening so much in society. They try so many ways and they fail. Why do they fail? They fail because they have no understanding of this principle of Krishna consciousness. The principle that Krishna is our provider, our Father. Srila Prabhupada often said that his business is to remind us. Why are you rotten in the street? Prabhupada uses this word. Why are you rotten in the street like a pauper, like someone, a homeless person, when your Father is the richest, is the wealthiest? Why do you have to go to so much work and distress? Come back to your Father and live in the prosperity of your Father. So, Prabhupada is reminding us of that. That if we don't have this understanding, then we won't be able to fulfill these ideals, these natural qualities and ideals of society. From the perspective of Krishna, there is equality. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, this principle of equality is how a person who has knowledge, a sage, will see. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and a gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. So, this is very important because it's not like someone in knowledge says that, oh, everyone is equal. Materially, everybody is equally. No, materially, we're not equal. We have a cow and we have a dog. A cow is a sacred animal. A dog is maybe sacred here in America, but not in India. In India, you know, a dog is kicked around, you know, it's like they have a really hard time in India. You know, a cow is a sacred animal. Here is upside down. The cows have a really hard time. The dogs, they live like kings. You know, people are picking after them. So, but you see a cow, you see a dog. You see a brahmana, you see a dog eater. So, there's differences. The sage see that there is difference, but he sees that it's equality too. That they're all spirit souls. They all, from the spiritual perspective, we're equal. We're all children of God. We all spirit souls. So from the perspective of Krishna consciousness, there's real equality. Without necessarily saying that materially, well, we're like equal. They try to do with this communism that says everybody is equal. But that's not true. It didn't work like that. In communism, there was two classes. Everybody and the ruling class. And the ruling class, so everybody, all the rest of the people, they're all equal. So the teachers, the workers, the plumbers, they're all equal. The farmers, they're all equal. But we, the ruling class, we live like kings. You know, we have all these facilities. So it didn't work. That's why it failed. Because materially you have to understand there are differences. But spiritually, then we can have equality, real equality. Peace is another thing that is important in this society that we can only achieve when we actually embrace this understanding of Krishna's position as our Supreme Father. So, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktaran Jagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He is the supreme owner of everything. And everything that we do in the family is meant for his pleasure. But he's also Sruhidam Sarvabhutanam. He's our best friend. So when we have these three things, Krishna gives this as a peace formula in the Bhagavad Gita. So we can only obtain peace when we have this, when we embrace this conception. Without it, there's no peace. There's a world of competition. Here in the West, we call it the rat race. It's a rat race. Basically, is you have to fence for yourself, my friend. You know, and watch your back because the one that's coming behind you is going to try to take your position. We're in constant anxiety of keeping what we have and not losing it. Like that. And hankering for something better. So we are constantly in this duality of hankering and lamenting. Swachati, nakanchati nasanchati nakanchati. Like when we come free from that, then we can be happy. With that, you know, then we're on constant anxiety. So peace. So happiness in the material world, Prabhupada explains, has a beginning and an end. But happiness in Krishna is unlimited. There is no end. It's the happiness of the soul. So that's the happiness that we're looking for. So prosperity and happiness Krishna provides when we actually sync or link with his system. Krishna has provided for us a perfect system. Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam Purnam Purnamudachyate. Everything that he does, everything that he has created, everything that he has provided for us is perfect. It's complete. If we accept it, if we follow this system that Krishna has given, he said, you can aspire to live for 100 years happy and prosperous. So this is the way of actually prosperity and happiness. It's a perfect balance of matter and spirit. Very important principle that the Bhagavad Gita teaches is not that, okay, what these Hare Krishnas are telling us is that you become spiritual. And then that means I have to diminish my material activities. I have to, so chant more Hare Krishna. So you say, the husband is going to work and is trying to see if I have some little thing to eat, and the wife said, no, I'm chanting Hare Krishna here, very nice. So, Hare Krishna. Man should be austere. Nirjala Kasi for you, Nirjala. Or the wife is need to do the market and things, buy things for the children, and the man said, no, I'm not going to work now, I need to chant Hare Krishna now. So you don't go to work? No. The principle of Krishna consciousness is a perfect principle of balance of matter and spirit. The Sri Upanishad tells us that these two things have to be simultaneously followed. Simultaneously. If you neglect matter and spirit only, then you won't advance. It's fake. It's artificial. It's only going to last for some time. But you can't be able to maintain it. If you neglect the spirituality for materialism, you finish. You go down. It's not only stop, but actually you're going to go down into more and more materialistic life. So these two things have to be followed simultaneously. So you don't neglect your material duties, but your material duties are meant for the purpose of elevation of consciousness. So we are guided by vidya, by transcendental knowledge. And when we're guided by transcendental knowledge, then all things are perfectly in order. And then we can actually achieve happiness, achieve the prosperity. Now, Krishna says, for each one of us, there's a quota that is already being provided. The problem that we have in this modern materialistic society is that we always looking to the next, house and see, how you say, grass is greener there. So I like, I have to keep up with the Jones, like that, literally, as we say. So we want the quota of someone else. We have to learn to be satisfied with what Krishna provides in a balanced way. So you work hard, you perform your duties honestly, you develop in an honest manner in your dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. And you elevate yourself, right? That's the process that Krishna gives. Krishna helps us with this understanding to preserve Mother Earth. So the relationship that we have, when we have a relationship with our Father, naturally our relationship with our Mother is very strong. But when we have absolutely no understanding of anything, then we destroy not only ourselves, but also destroy the environment, destroy our Mother Earth, our Mother Cow, like that. Have no understanding of respect. And therefore, when we embrace this life, when we embrace our Father, we can call ourselves Achutta Gotra. So when people like me that have no Gotra, materially, goes to temples in India, the Brahmana asks, Aapka Gotra? And I say, Ben, Achutta Gotra hai. So we are children of Krishna. And this is my family. And this is my family. And when we learn to live like that, it's a life of prosperity, a life of happiness. Celebrating every day our Supreme Father. Thank you so much. So I think we run out of time. So we take questions. One or two questions. Any? Yes, please.
Question for you. Where is it more convenient to follow Krishna consciousness? In East or the West?
Well, I think in the East, I will say, for one sense, is more supportive for Krishna consciousness because the culture is a natural culture there. So we see that right now, Krishna consciousness is flourishing in India. It's expanding like anything. And in the West, especially here in America, we have more challenges. So it's more difficult. Even for us devotees, we have to deal with all these anarthas or desires or conceptions of happiness that has been basically indoctrinated in us. That this idea that I'll be happy if I have these material facilities, or if I have things, then it's difficult to get rid of that stuff. We keep going back to that because it's a non-source of hope or so-called happiness. So I would say it's easier to be Christian conscious in the East. Right now we have more challenges, but here we have, because it's more challenging, there's more mercy. So we have access to tremendous amount of mercy from the saintly personalities, Srila Prabhupada. To establish Krishna consciousness in India, he came to give the mercy here. And then, with his disciples, his white elephants, he went to India and, showed, here's your culture. So I appreciate it. So yeah, that's my personal opinion. Any other question? Yes, Prabhu.
In one of the slides you had the 8 points for the fathers, and the last one was on discipline. So when you talk about discipline, are we talking about time and following that, and following this one, we're talking about for enforcing the sort of disciplines of the Dharma. So what is it you're talking about?
Well, discipline means to teach. With discipline, you put a structure in education. We learn to follow a structure. Undiscipline is when there's no structure. So it is important to build the character, and that's works materially and spiritually. That we maintain, we teach discipline to our children. So both ways. So if we have to teach, the principles of Dharma, there's disciplines, there's do's and don'ts. Similarly, materially, there is disciplines too. You have to study, you have to, follow this and follow that, and these things. So it's an important element of education. Yes. But discipline, you have to be accompanied simultaneously with love, with care. Very, very deep care and love. When the children trust you, then you can chastise them without traumatizing them. When they understand that you have the bag, you have the best, you can do that. I find that as a teacher that I don't have children of my own, but working with children for so many years, and as a teacher, it's a similar parental relationship with the children. And when they trust you, then you can chastise them. But if they don't trust you, and you chastise them, they don't go into here. They're gonna rebel. And so important. Okay. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Subal, for the wonderful lecture. Let's all express our gratitude to Subal by loudly saying Haribol 3 times. Haribol! 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 Subal traveled all the way from downtown Chicago to here. He lives in the downtown area. And Subal also runs the Bhakti Launch program, a nicer way to reach out to the Western audience or people who are not directly connected to temple. So it's a very wonderful program. Prabhuji conducts programs every Tuesday, right, Prabhuji?
Actually, every day.
Every day now. Haribol! Right. Our Sunday feast is not possible with generous donors. We always have sponsors every Sunday to support our Sunday feast program. So this week our sponsors are Dev Iyer Prabhu seeking the blessings for their son Adib and daughter Tanya. Anybody from Dev Iyer Prabhu's family here? Nobody here. Okay. And then secondly, Neeru and Ajay Gupta seeking blessings for their mother Kusumlata Agarwal. Seeking blessing for her ongoing spiritual journey. She just passed away on June 2nd. So, seeking the blessings of Shri Radha Madhava for these two generous families, let us say the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare.
Anybody from Neeru and Ajay Gupta family? Please, Krishna, please take some. If anybody is interested in sponsoring oncoming fees, please seek Prabhuji. We have to guide you how to get the sponsors. Once again, thank you very much for listening us on this Sunday. You can take the blessing of the deities and have a shot with the upstairs. Haribol.